You didn't expect that this morning, huh?
I didn't.
Yeah. Hey, honey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah. Are you guys ready to learn more about Jesus in the Old Testament?
Oh, I'm ready.
Yeah, because we got more Isaiah today, and he talks a lot about J-DizzyDog.
Okay, here we go. Strap in, guys.
All right. So last time, Isaiah was talking a lot about how God was pretty pissed off. And now God is basically just pissed at like conservative Republican kind of attitude. Basically pissing on the poor, making widows pray, withholding justice, robbing the poor, basically conservative Republican shit that happens. Assyria is going to get ass blasted hard because normally Assyria is the one doing the butthole blasting, but God is now going to ass blast them.
Is ass blast a technical term?
Ass blast is definitely a technical Hebrew term.
Okay. Just checking.
But God is going to ass blast the king of Assyria because he's too prideful. Apparently, God is the only one that can ride that particular short bus. Some will be saved from this ass whooping, though. But don't be afraid because God will get bored of ass blasting you guys and focus his ass blasting on other people.
Don't play a drinking game with the words ass blasting on this podcast. You'll die.
God then fat shames them for some reason. God then talks up about his son, J-DizzyDog. J-DizzyDog is going to be decked out in bedazzling spirit shit. And J-DizzyDog J-DizzyDog is gonna slay the wicked with some sick rhymes. Then crazy shit's gonna happen, like cats are gonna fuck dogs and make them their bitches. Children will play with vipers and shit. Guys, it's just gonna get all kind of freaky. J-Dizzy then gonna save them all, and then they're gonna bend down and suck J-DizzyD. Judah is then gonna get all fucked up and taken captive. They are pretty much just reaping what they sow because all of their wives, sons, and daughters, they gonna get chained up. But luckily for them, a Sumerian prophet is gonna warn these people about not fucking with the Judeans. So they put all their clothes back on because naturally when you take your slaves, you strip them down naked. I guess right before the rape happens. And they dressed them back up and sent them on their way back to Jericho. And then Ahaz has some shit to do. He begs somebody for something. I don't know. It's other shit. Not as exciting as cats fucking dogs.
Are you going to call Jesus J-DizzyDog the entire New Testament, like once we get there?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm workshopping the name for
Okay.
J-DizzyDog. Okay. It may just be G-Dog or not G-Dog, but J-Dog, J-Dizzy. Could be any combination of any of those. Or
something else entirely?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we'll see when we get there. We've got a ways to go to the New Testament.
Prepare your anus for J-DizzyDog.
Oh, here we go.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? So, I'm totally right about the Jesus thing. J-DizzyDog. I'm totally right about that guy in this particular section, but I may have gotten some other things wrong.
Yeah, he's not exactly bedazzled.
Oh, no, he's definitely bedazzled in spirit shit.
Okay.
If you could bedazzle somebody in spirit shit, Jesus is coming down with like his bell bottoms on and is all bedazzled with spirit stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yes.
Okay. We're just going to read it out of here and see what it says about it if you're on board with that.
Yeah, just everybody, when we start talking about J-Dizzy, just think about the whole bell bottoms and bedazzling and everything. Just imagine that and you'll get an accurate picture of what Isaiah is trying to get across here.
I don't think so.
Anyways, let's go ahead and start the actual Bible.
Okay, so we're going to start with Isaiah chapter 10. We're going to get through Isaiah 10 through 12 today, and then we're going to hit a little bit in 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles. So, you ready?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so last week we ended it talking about God's wrath against Israel and what he was going to do to them. And now we're going to find out. I mean, we already kind of know some of why, but here's another reason why he's mad. So that's where we're going to start today is why he's pissed off.
Here's another reason why he's pissed.
It sounds pretty socialist to me, guys. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights, and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. What will you do on the day of reckoning when disaster comes from afar? To whom will you run for help? Where will you leave your riches? Nothing will remain but to cringe among the captives or fall among the slain. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised.
Okay.
So he's mad about how they treat the downtrodden in society.
He's got his pimp hand ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Woe to the Assyrian, the rod of my anger, in whose hand is the club of my wrath.
Somebody say rod.
Rod, and in whose hand is the club.
Damn.
You know.
Like, you ever had a rod that was so hard it had another club in its own hand? Is that what we're talking about?
Like the rod has a hand and the rod has hands?
Yeah. Sorry, maybe I'm just misunderstanding what he's trying to get across here.
You are, because you have too much dick on the brain. It's weird. It's kind of weird.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I send him against a godless nation. I dispatch him against a people who anger me, to seize loot and snatch plunder, and to trample them down like mud in the streets. But this is not what he intends. This is not what he has in mind. His purpose is to destroy, to put an end to many nations. Are not my commanders all kings, he says? Has not Calno fared like Carchemish? Is not Hamath like Arpad, and Samaria like Damascus? As my hand seized the kingdoms of the idols, kingdoms whose images excelled those of Jerusalem and Samaria, shall I not deal with Jerusalem and her images as I dealt with Samaria and her idols? When the Lord has finished all of his work against Mount Zion and Jerusalem, he will say, I will punish the king of Assyria for the willful pride of his heart and the haughty look in his eyes. For he says, by the strength of my hand I have done this, and by my wisdom because I have understanding. I removed the boundaries of nations. I plundered their treasures. Like a mighty one, I subdued their kings. As one reaches into a nest, so my hand reached for the wealth of the nations. As men gather abandoned eggs, so I gathered all the countries. Not one flapped a wing or opened its mouth to chirp. Does the axe raise itself above who swings it, or the saw boast against him who uses it? As if a rod were to wield him who lifts it up, or a club brandished him who is not wood. Therefore the Lord Almighty, will send a wasting disease upon his sturdy warriors. Under his pomp a fire will be kindled, like a blazing flame. The light of Israel will become a fire, their Holy One a flame. In a single day it will burn and consume his thorns and his briars. The splendor of his forests and fertile fields it will completely destroy, as when a sick man wastes away. And the remaining trees of the forest will be so few that a child could write them down.
Why would a child write them down? That seems like a bore. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's what children are doing nowadays.
Writing down trees?
I don't know, giving them names. There's Jerry. There's Mark over there. Y'all need to watch out for old Cecil. He's a fucking asshole.
I don't know. I don't think that's what kids are doing these days.
I mean, bored in the house, and we're in the house bored.
True. Okay. But not to worry.
Uh-oh, not to worry, guys. Strap in.
In that day, the remnant of Israel, the survivors of the house of Jacob, will no longer rely on him who struck them down, but will truly rely on the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. A remnant will return, a remnant of Jacob, will return to the mighty God. Though your people, O Israel, be like the sand by the sea, only a remnant will return. Destruction has been decreed, overwhelming and righteous. The Lord Almighty, will carry out the destruction decreed upon the whole land. Therefore, this is what the Lord, the Almighty says. The Lord Almighty. We have to repeat the Lord multiple times just in case you didn't hear it the first time or weren't sure. O my people who live in Zion, do not be afraid of the Assyrians who beat you with a rod and lift up a club against you as Egypt did.
See, the Assyrians taking their rods out and beating them with it.
They are. Very soon my anger against you will end, and my wrath will be directed to their destruction. Yep. The Lord Almighty will lash them with a whip, and when he struck down Midian at the rock of Oreb, and he will raise his staff over the waters as he did in Egypt. In that day their burden will be lifted from your shoulders, their yoke from your neck. The yoke will be broken because you have grown so fat. So,
is this the part where he's talking about the Savior?
No.
No?
No, this is where he's talking about how they'll overcome captivity.
Right. Well, it's just that I heard a little bit of allusion to Moses there.
Yeah, there was a little. Yeah, he talks about how he will.
He who?
God.
God?
Yeah, the Lord Almighty will lash them with a whip, as when he struck down Midian at the rock of Oreb, and he will raise his staff over the waters as he did in Egypt. The Lord will.
Right. Which, I don't know, the Lord, like, Jesus is called the Lord. So I don't know. There are certain.
I think they're hearkening back to when Moses had his staff and God made the part of the waters.
Right. Well, see, the one understanding in the New Testament, at least with Matthew, is that Jesus is the new Moses, or that's one of the prefigures to Jesus is Moses. So it's kind of odd that we find it here also an allusion to Moses when referring to the Lord and the salvation that he's going to bring to his people. And
it's not it's just how they'll come out of captivity.
Coming out of captivity.
Yeah, it's basically a similar thing as to what happened to them in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come out of captivity.
Oh, okay.
In a similar way.
All right.
And when he says here, because you have grown so fat, there are a couple translations of this. Not sure why they chose fat, but broken is also.
I'm not broken. Except for my pancreas.
Well, they're saying because as a people, they've been held captive and they're a broken people right now. In any case, they enter Aath. They pass through Migron. They store supplies at Michmash. I love that name. Michmash.
Michmash?
Mm-hmm. They go over the pass and say, we will camp overnight at Geba. Ramah trembles. Gibeah of Saul flees. Cry out, O daughter of Gallim. Listen, O Laishah. Laishah. Yep, that sounds right. Poor Anathoth. Madmenah is in flight. The people of Gebim take cover. This day they will halt at Nob. They will take. I know you love that place, Nob. They will shake their fist at the mount of the daughter of Zion, at the hill of Jerusalem. See, the Lord Almighty, will lop off the boughs with great power. The lofty trees will be felled, the tall ones will be brought low. He will cut down the forest thickets with an axe. Lebanon will fall before the mighty one.
Who's the mighty one? I guess, is that
God?
That's God?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But here's what's going to happen next. Are you ready?
Uh-oh.
A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit.
Yes, so this is 11:1, right?
Yes.
All right, so this right here is where they supposedly... a lot of people give me shit about, like, well, why is he in Nazareth? Like, where does he come from, Nazareth? Why are all these complicated things for where he's come from? And it's because of the prophecies. So Isaiah 11:1, Jesse, he's called a Nazarene because of the branch a rod out of Jesse, the son of Jesse.
And branch is actually capitalized. It's the only word in here that's capitalized except for the name Jesse.
Right.
Branch, every time that they're talking about Jesus and they call him the branch,
Mm-hmm.
it's capitalized.
That's a title.
Yes, it's a title.
Right. So that's why he's called a Nazarene, or that's why in the Gospels he's depicted as coming from Nazareth, at least in the ones that seem to matter. Both Matthew and Luke have him coming from Nazareth, or being a Nazarene.
Right. And it doesn't actually say in the NIV that he's come from Nazareth, or as a Nazarene. But if you look in... does it say it in the King James?
No. So the way that they get Nazarene is because of Jesse. Okay. And the branch coming out of it means that he is going to be called a Nazarene.
Gotcha.
So that's how they get it. It's because he's a stem of Jesse, mm-hmm. and a branch growing out of Jesse's roots. And
Jesse is David's father.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we get that Jesus is from the lineage of David.
Right.
And it's interesting that they choose to say the lineage of David, because in the Bible they say Jesse.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, it's a little... It's weird how they connect it. But, I mean, so the lineage of David and all that, the lineage of Jesus goes all the way back to Adam, mm-hmm. is what it does. And
well, they do say David earlier, right. In Isaiah. They do say David, but here they say Jesse.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why I think it's to indicate where he's supposed to be from, or at least one of the places he's supposed to be from, and that's mm-hmm. he's called a Nazarene. And so this is, at least on a first century Jewish Christian interpretation of these passages, which they would have been using the Septuagint at the time, that this is how they would have understood it. We're not talking about what the actual meaning was at the time that Isaiah was written. We're talking about first century
when they
Jewish
were writing
Christians.
the Gospels.
Right.
Yes.
That's how they were understanding it. Even Paul was understanding it this way. Mm-hmm. So that's the big thing, is to separate out what was actually meant when Isaiah was written and what the later Jewish Christians understood them to be.
And believed because of all of the things compiled together.
Right.
All of the prophecies compiled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we know that the Messiah is going to come from the house of David, right?
Right.
The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of power, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord, and he will delight in the fear of the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 11:2 mm-hmm. says that he will be anointed by. He's the anointed one by the Spirit, and then it goes on to describe his character of wisdom, knowledge, and all that kind of stuff.
He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes, or decide by what he hears with his ears, but with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth.
Yeah, and this they equate to him knowing their thoughts, being telepathic, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, he will not judge by what he sees with his eyes or decide what he hears with his ears, but with righteousness. So he'll know them. He doesn't have to see what they do or hear what they say. Mm-hmm. He'll know who they are and what they think, basically. He'll judge them by their righteousness. Mm-hmm. Okay. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. With the breath of his lips, he will slay the wicked. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist.
I could just see Jesus walking around with a huge fucking belt buckle that says righteous. And him taking it off and being like, come here, boy, you've been fucking up. And like cracking his belt.
Okay, are we ready? The wolf will live with the lamb, the leopard will lie down with the goat, the calf and the lion and the yearling together, and a little child will lead them. The cow will feed with the bear, their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play near the hole of the cobra, and the young child put his hand into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord, and the water as the waters cover the sea.
Yeah, so I think that this is probably one of the verses that's heavily used by like snake handlers.
Yes.
With the kids playing around with the snakes and shit.
Yes, basically they say that they can handle the snakes and they will not be harmed. They will neither harm nor destroy them.
Right.
Which actually does happen.
Right. And then I think that their main draw for the whole snake handling thing comes from the Gospels, where they talk about how the snakes won't bite them or something like that if they're righteous in God. But I think that this is probably where the Gospels gets it from too.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have a little bit about how Jesus is going to be, who he's going to be, what he's going to be like. Mm-hmm. In that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nation will rally to him, and his place of rest will be glorious. In that day, the Lord will reach out his hand a second time to reclaim the remnant that is left of his people from Assyria, from Lower Egypt, from Upper Egypt, from Cush, from Elam, from Babylonia, from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea.
Right. So in the King James version of this, in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 10, it actually has it directly say that the Gentiles will seek Jesus. So...
Yes. Okay, so this is continuing on here, talking about the remnant. Are you ready?
Right, yeah, remnants.
He will raise a banner for the nations, and, well, this is what the Messiah is going to do.
Right.
The Messiah is going to gather the remnant.
Right.
Okay. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth. Ephraim's jealousy will vanish, and Judah's enemies will be cut off. Ephraim will not be jealous of Judah, nor Judah hostile towards Ephraim. They will swoop down on the slopes of Philistia to the west. Together they will plunder the people to the east. They will lay hands on Edom and Moab, and the Ammonites will be subject to them. The Lord will dry up the gulf of the Egyptian sea. With a scorching wind, he will sweep his hand over the Euphrates River. He will break it up into 7 streams so that man can cross over in sandals. There will be a highway for the remnant of his people that is left from Assyria, as there was for Israel when they came up from Egypt.
Fuck yeah.
I thought you might have something useful to add. Sorry, guys.
No. Well, I mean, basically, from what I gather from that section is just that he's going to clean up house.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's just going to stroll through with his belt of righteousness and fucking crack it and...
Well, he's gonna gather all of the people, the remnant together.
Right. Mm-hmm. With his mighty righteous belt.
Okay. And in that day you will say, that we're going into Isaiah chapter 12 now, just for anybody who's paying attention. In that day you will say, I will praise you, O Lord. Although you were angry with me, your anger has turned away, and you have comforted me. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. With joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. Right.
So in this particular section, Isaiah 12:2, it's actually considered a prophecy that he's going to be called Jesus. This is kind of a contrived prophecy, I feel, because in the King James Version, it actually, instead of saying the Lord, it actually says the Lord Jehovah. And they interpret Jehovah to mean Jesus or Yeshua, basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's from. I mean, they use the King James Version when they're talking about this, but it says Jehovah in King James. In the NIV, it just says the Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. Right. So the wording's slightly different. I'm not sure of this as a prophecy of Jesus, but.
Well, I mean, it's listed in this according to the scriptures, which is the list of 353 prophecies of Jesus in the Old Testament, and they link it to the, of course, New Testament, and so yeah, they claim that this is a prophecy that he is going to be called Jesus, but there's actually a lot better references to the Messiah being called Jesus. But this is supposedly just another one of those verses where he's called Jesus.
You make your own mind up on that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think so.
I wouldn't use this as like a prophecy at all. But I'm just
not as to what he'll be called. I mean, it says the Lord will be my strength and my song. He has become my salvation.
Well, yeah, I meant as far as in the context of him being called Jesus, I wouldn't use this.
No.
Personally, I feel like there's another verse in Zechariah that directly says Jesus or Yeshua. That is a much better reference to say, you know, he was going to be called Jesus even before he was supposedly born. But so I would say that this is highly contrived and is not a very good reference to use.
Okay, so let's continue. In that day you will say, give thanks to the Lord, call on his name, make known among the nations what he has done, and proclaim that his name is exalted. Sing to the Lord, for he has done glorious things. Let this be known to all the world. Shout aloud and sing for joy, people of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel among you. Okay, so we're going to bounce out of Isaiah.
Whew. Okay.
We're not done with Isaiah, but we're going to bounce out for a few minutes.
Oh, yeah, because Isaiah is like 50 chapters long.
Isaiah is very long. Isaiah has a lot of prophecies. Yeah. But we're going to bounce out of this real quick to talk a little bit about what's going on in Judah.
Okay.
With King Ahaz.
All right.
And if you remember from the last time we were here, Isaiah told Ahaz that he needed to call on God. And he didn't. He refused to do that. And he also refused to get involved in a war with Samaria and was it Samaria? No, Syria. Sorry, with Syria and Israel. Right? They teamed up and Judah refused to go along. Right. So Syria and Israel attacked Judah. Okay. So that's just to give you get everybody collaborated to the same. Here's where we are now.
Calibrated.
What did I say? Collaborate. Collaborate and listen.
Collaborate and listen.
Yeah, sorry. I'm tired.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Therefore, this is 2 Kings 16 is where we're starting out, and we just have a couple verses from 2 Kings 16, and then we go into 2 Chronicles chapter 28. Okay. Therefore, the Lord his God handed him over to the king of Aram. The Arameans defeated him and took many of his people as prisoners and brought them to Damascus. He was also given into the hands of the king of Israel, who inflicted heavy casualties on him. In one day, Pekah, son of Remaliah, who's the king of Israel, killed 120,000 soldiers in Judah, because Judah had forsaken the Lord, the God of their fathers. Zikri, an Ephraimite warrior, killed Maaseiah, the king's son. Azrikam, the officer in charge over the palace. That sounds like a name from Harry Potter. And Elkanah, second to the king. The Israelites took captive from their kinsmen 200,000 wives, sons, and daughters.
Ooh,
they also took a great deal of plunder, which they carried back to Samaria.
They plundered that booty.
They did. But a prophet of the Lord named OH-DED was there, and he went out to meet the army when it returned to Samaria. He said to them, because the Lord, the God of your fathers, was angry with Judah, he gave them into your hand. But you have slaughtered them in a rage that reaches to heaven, and now you intend to make the men and women of Judah and Jerusalem your slaves. But aren't you also guilty of sins against the Lord your God? Now listen to me. Send back your fellow countrymen you have taken as prisoners, for the Lord's fierce anger rests on you.
I mean, the Assyrians they've regularly fucked with the Judeans. I don't know why all of a sudden now it's like, hey, y'all.
Oh, these aren't the Assyrians.
Oh, they're not?
No.
Okay, I had a misunderstanding then.
These are the Israelite. This is Israel and Syria.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's different.
That's different. Okay, Israel and Syria. Okay, but still, they both were fucking up Judah, and it was like fine, and now it's not.
Yeah, because God was really pissed at Judah.
Yeah,
because Ahaz was like the worst king of Judah. Remember, he like himself worshipped idols and did all kinds of crazy shit. So, God was really mad. So of course they had to be punished, right? And this happened, but they had to be punished, but enough was enough, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, like, come on, guys. I didn't say take them captive. Come on. Fuck. What the fuck are you doing?
Well, but it was, they took on heavy casualties. I mean, 120,000 men were killed, soldiers, and then the 200,000 taken captive.
Right.
And I guess it was just too much.
Yeah. Also, as far as the prophet OH-DED here, fabulous name. But I feel like he's the butler from that it's an Adam Sandler movie where he inherits like a large sum of money in a corporation. It's not Big Daddy. It's, oh man, I can't remember what movie it's called. Anyways, he's got a butler in it that just appears out of nowhere.
Interesting.
And he just shows up, and I feel like that's what OH-DED has done here. Like they captured everybody, these guys captured everybody, stripped them down naked and everything like that, and they're about to have a good time. And then OH-DED shows up just randomly, like, "Hey guys, y'all might not want to do this shit, okay? God has told me personally, don't fucking do it." Yeah,
he's going to be very mad. He's going to be very, very mad. So, some leaders in Ephraim, Azariah, son of Jehohanan, Berechiah, son of Meshillamoth, Jehizkiah, son of Shallum, and Amasa, son of Hadlai, confronted those who were arriving from the war. "You must not bring those prisoners here," they said, "or we will be guilty before the Lord. Do you intend to add to our sin and guilt? For our guilt is already great, and his fierce anger rests on Israel." So the soldiers gave up the prisoners and plunder in the presence of the officials and all the assembly. The men designated by name took the prisoners, and from the plunder they clothed all who were naked. They provided with them clothes and sandals, food and drink, and healing balm. All those who were weak they put on donkeys. So they took them back to their fellow countrymen at Jericho, the city of palms, and returned to Samaria.
I know everybody is probably screaming at me in the chat, but I just looked it up and it's Mr. Deeds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the movie that I was talking about.
I think I saw that one. Does a little kid show up in that movie?
No, that's Big Daddy.
Oh. I know I've seen that movie. I probably only saw it once, and I'm not really a huge fan of stupid humor movies, so.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Although I do like Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're almost done.
All right.
At that time, King Ahaz, who didn't get killed in all of this, right? When King Ahaz, he's the king of Judah. He did not get killed in all of this mess. But a lot of his, obviously a lot of his soldiers did, and his closest people did. His son, the officer in charge of the palace, and his number 2, right?
Right.
Okay.
The assistant to the assistant number 2, or
no, the
assistant to the manager.
The assistant to the regional manager.
Right.
Yeah. So at that time, King Ahaz sent to the king of Assyria for help. So this is really weird because Syria and Israel teaming up is already strange enough, right? Because they're not already allies. And so they're teaming up against Judah, and then Judah is reaching out to Assyria for help against their own people. So the Edomites had again come and attacked Judah and carried away prisoners, while the Philistines had raided towns in the foothills and in the Negev of Judah. They captured and occupied Beth Shemesh, Aijalon, and Gederoth, as well as Soko, Timnah, and Gizmo.
Wait, Soko?
Soko. S-O-C-O.
Yeah, normally that's a reference for Southern Comfort.
Yes.
I don't particularly partake in that, but you know what? Apparently he liked it so much he named it after himself.
So anyway, in their surrounding villages, the Lord had humbled Judah because of Ahaz, king of Israel, for he had promoted the wickedness in Judah and had been most unfaithful to the Lord. Tiglath-Pileser, I can't remember how to say that, king of Assyria, came to him, but he gave him trouble instead of help. Ahaz took some things from the temple of the Lord and from the royal palace and from the princes and presented them to the king of Assyria, but he did not help him.
Yeah, whenever I think of Plesser or whatever, I think of for some reason I think of the Super Mario, the newer Super Marios, where it's got Plessy in it, and it's like this sort of plastic inflatable sort of Loch Ness monster looking thing.
Oh, but it's Pileser.
Oh, okay.
So Pileser or Pilisar.
Pilsner?
Or not Pilsner.
Fuck. Pilser.
Pileser.
Oh, whatever. We'll call him Pilsner. He'll be a beer.
Anyway, that's all. So the king of Assyria doesn't help Ahaz.
No, he doesn't.
He does not. So next time
in the Bible.
Yeah. We're going to continue in Isaiah with chapter 34. We're going to start with chapter 34.
What the fuck?
But then we're going to bounce back and we're going to do some 13. Not some 13. Sorry. Some 14, some 15, some 16, and some 17.
Okay.
But we're going to start with 34, and here's why. Because that is basically the summary of Isaiah's prophecy of God's wrath against nations. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a little summary about his wrath against the nations, and then we're going to go into his judgment against Assyria, his judgment against Moab, which is a lot. Moab fucked up somehow. His judgment against Damascus.
God is a judgy fucking bitch.
Yeah. So those are the things we're going to go over next time. And then the next time after that, it's going to continue into judgment against Edom and a second judgment against Edom because the first one wasn't good enough. Arabia, Tyre. Like we're gonna get a lot of judgment. So
I feel like this could be made into a skit where it's got God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit as the judges on a panel of kind of like America's Top Model, except it's like Israel's most fucked nations or something like that, or Middle East most fucked nations, and then you've got all these people coming up here like, hey, yo, God, it's like this motherfucking guy, fuck this asshole, and then Jesus stands up with his belt of righteousness and being like, you best get the fuck out of here, Daddy's mad.
Yeah, so we're gonna have some judgment against nations next time.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, heathens, I almost called you guys mafiosos. That's for a different podcast. Well, heathens, if you guys want to catch up next time with the Bible, then definitely smash that subscribe button and hit that like button. Normally you smash the like button, but this time you're going to smash the subscribe button because, as we all know, new people watch this show.
If they can make it through the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. Anyways, heathens, I hope that you guys will
stand up and use your voice.
Bye, heathens.
Wash your damn hands.